In the Codex Quadrivian Book 2, we followed the Book of Sundering, which is the early O-Dream as the unity begins to fracture. The four tribes, the bound, rooted, hallowed, and unmoored, struggle with new visions, voices, and divine warnings. Now we're going to read Book 3, the Book of Measure. It reveals how the tribes sought to impose order after all the silence of the heavens. The bounds codified fire into law, while the rooted clung to memory and the balance of nature. A forbidden prophecy re-emerges through a nameless child, and later through a girl marked by visions of a forgotten fifth path. The book ends with fractured doctrine, hidden symbols, and the quiet carving of a fifth stone, unspoken but not unknown. Chapter 1. The Law Before Flame. In the days when the tribes still shared the morning, a question rose among the bound. What binds the wind, and who measures the mountain? And the eldest among them, a scribe named Hallan, gathered bark and ash and wrote what he had heard in dreams. For he had seen fire carve paths in stone, and the stones yield not in fear, but in purpose. Thus was the first law written, not as a rule, but as a rhythm. The bound kept this law with fire and whisper, for they believed the codex was not made by hands, but found in the folds of the world. And it was said, to break the law is not to sin, but to forget. The rooted heard this and did not contest it, but walked in their own remembering in the groves of silence. In those days the hallowed were seldom seen, for they had gone into the deep, seeking a name older than law. The unmoored build no home, but scattered stone across the land, saying, the map is not the ground, but the ground remembers. And all four tribes held to a quiet reverence, though their tongues did not always agree. Chapter 2. The Tablets of Binding. Upon the rise of the third sun of the season, the bound gathered at the mouth of Ash, and brought forth the 5 tablets. The first bore the fire mark of order, the second held the wind sigil of voice, the third was blank, for silence was its keeper. The fourth tablet was broken, for it had come from the hallowed, and none could read its fracture, and the fifth was forbidden. And yet they kept it, though none would speak its words aloud, nor place it near flame. And a child of the rooted once reached for the fifth, and was struck blind, not by fire, but by memory. The bound took this as a sign, and hid the fifth tablet in the hall of ember, guarded by 12 who never slept. But the rooted said, that which is buried beneath ash will one day grow. And from that day forward they planted trees in the shape of 5. The unmoored marked the stars with 5-fold paths, and the hallowed sang wordless chants, with fifth notes held just beyond hearing. And the bound alone sealed the fifth, and called it forgotten. Chapter 3. The Scattering of Men. In the generations after the tablets were sealed, the tribes no longer met beneath one sky. For the groves of the rooted grew wild and deep, and none dared pass between. The bound erected towers that counted the stars, and declared boulders where none had stood. The hallowed whispered into the stone, and vanished from the daylight paths, and the unmoored followed winds that changed without warning. Yet a remnant remained near the place of first light, and they called it simply the world. These were not of any one tribe, but of many, forgotten, mixed, unclaimed. And from them rose a scribe named Neman, who asked, why do we count what divides and not what remains? But no answer came, save the rustle of leaves and the distant turning of the sky. And so the codex was copied again, with half-remembered verses with crooked lines. Some called it heresy, others called it hope. And the world moved on, bearing both. Chapter 4. The First Voice. In the low places where no fire reached and no law ruled, the first of the people spoke. His name was Theros, son of Dust, the child of Wide alone. And with him were those who heard the world before it spoke. They called themselves the Odream. The Odream built no tower, nor carved their names in stone. They gathered around memory and fire, root and sky. 4 paths emerged from them, not by war, but by walking. The bound took the fire and made it law. The rooted took the silence and made it memory. The hallowed took the depth and made it song. The unmoored took the wind and made it journey. Theros stood at the meeting of all paths and placed 4 stones at the center. And it was said, while these 4 stand, the Odream shall not be forgotten. But even stones may crack and memory fade. Chapter 5. The Division. In the 10th generation after Theros, the 4 tribes no longer gathered. The bound wrote new laws, each more rigid than the last, and lit fires to burn what would not bend. The rooted let vines cover their records, saying what is remembered need not be read. The hollowed sang to no one deep in the stone. The unmoored cast their scrolls to the wind and followed where they fell. Then rose a child among the rooted, whose voice echoed, though he never shouted. He spoke in dreams to the elders and said, the 5th is not gone, it waits. The bound heard of this and feared him, for no law was written for such a voice. They sought to silence him, claiming heresy. The rooted hid the child among the trees and taught him no name lest it be stolen. The hollowed heard his voice in their deep and hummed a chord not yet known. The unmoored, hearing nothing, changed course, but not without glancing back. And thus the 5th path stirred again, not by decree, but by breath. Chapter 6. The Voice and the Flame. The boy with no name came of age, walking barefoot among groves none dared cross. When he spoke, the winds turned. When he wept, leaves fell out of season. The rooted called him Seed of the Silence. The bound called him Oathbreaker. The hollowed gave him no name, but carved his shadow in stone. The unmoored told his story to the stars. Then came a day when he entered the place of stones and heard a voice not his own. The voice said, not all fire burns, not all silence is still. Speak. And the boy replied, I see a tree with 5 roots, one hidden beneath ash. The voice said, then you remember, tell them. But when he stepped out, the rooted were gone. The fire had come. The bound had found the grove and declared it unlawful. They lit their torches and cast flame upon the trees, saying, let silence be purged. The boy did not flee, he sang. And the fire parted where he stood. But others burned, and the grove was blackened. Only ash remained, and in it the boy's footprints led east. Chapter 7. The Ash Doctrine. In the aftermath of the burning grove, the bound returned in silence. Their law had been upheld, but their hearts were not stirred. Some among them took ash and made ink, writing new verses that bore no flame. These were called the Ash Doctrine, a quiet rebellion written with care. It taught that flame must answer silence, not silence to flame. But the elders of the bound forbade it. But among the young the pages spread. In secret they gathered in old halls and read, what burns may purify, but only what listens may endure. The rooted heard this in the wind and sent no reply. The hollowed etched the words into iron below the world. The unmoored changed course and did not say why. And the Ash Doctrine endured, unwritten in law, but carved in breath. Chapter 8. The Coming of Elrond. In the stillness between seed and storm, a light not burn of sun passed over the high grove of the rooted. It was not fire, nor star, nor dream, and yet it spoke. The first to hear it was an old innkeeper named Thalen, whose breath had grown thin and whose eyes had seen the fall of many leaves. In the moment between waking and sleep, he heard a voice like river stone and deep wind, saying, I am not flame, and yet I burn. I am not flesh, and yet I remember. And Thalen asked, who speaks without form? And the voice answered, I am Eleron, who was before the measure. From that day, the name was known among the tribes, though none could say whence it came, nor write its beginning. In the nights that followed, others heard the voice, and some in dreams, some in silence. It did not command nor rebuke, but offered only presence. And it was written by one scribe, He is not seen, but he is. He is not counted, but he is known. The bound heard the rumor of this voice and declared it a deception, for Eleron was not among the fires, nor recorded in any ash seal. But the rooted answered only, If he is not in the fire, then the fire is not all. In time, a glade was set aside, unmarked by stone or banner. The rooted gathered in silence, and some said the air shimmered faintly. And though no figure walked among them, they felt the weight of being, and they called that place the hallowed sky. It was said, Eleron speaks when none speak. Eleron remains when all else fades. But none could name his form nor trace his origin, and in truth Eleron had no temple, only memory. And thus did voice enter the world without law or fire, and the rooted listened without answer, and wrote nothing, yet remembered all. Chapter 9, The Doctrine of Fire and Root. In the days that followed the voice in the hollow sky, the bound summoned their scribes to the gate of the fifth flame and opened the sealed books. They sought a word to silence the rooted, a verse, a precedent, a fire that would bind them back. But every page they turned gave no command. The fires offered no clarity, only flickering echoes of things not yet written. So the bound forged a new decree, one not drawn from ash or codex, but from fear. Where the fire does not reach, the law must be carried. And they sent 5 judges to the groves of the rooted, bearing iron tablets and oaths written in ember ink. The rooted received them without sword or voice, and led them through the trees to the place where the stone of the four stood. There a woman of the rooted, not elder nor child, raised her hand and said, We will not carry what devours. And she placed before judges 4 branches, each tied with twine, one living, one dried, one scorched, one bare. The bound judges returned without a word, and the 5th tablet was never spoken of again. That year, the flame in the mirror of flesh dimmed to a coal, and no breath stirred it. The rooted did not rejoice, nor did they grieve. They recorded only this: the fire has forgotten how to listen. Then came arguments among the bound, and within their circle a schism formed. Those who wished to bind the rooted by conquest, and those who feared war would unmake the codex. Some departed the gate altogether, wandering east in silence, fireless but not faithless. Others sought deeper fire, burning old scrolls to unite new ones, saying the old law must be consumed to reveal the true. But the rooted in the dark groves of memory wrote nothing more. They tended their 4 stones, watched the stars, and whispered of Eleron, not as a god, but as breath. Chapter 10, The 5th Forgotten. In the season of the long moon, a child of the rooted wandered beyond the 4th stone and did not return. She was born without clan, a daughter of the wind and water, and her voice was said to carry even when she did not speak. None among the rooted searched for her, for they believed what walks beyond the grove is not lost, but called. Years passed, and her name faded from the glade scrolls. Yet beneath the surface of the world, deep in the folded stone, she was not gone. For the earth itself had opened, not to swallow, but to teach, and she had listened. She was given no fire, no blade, no book, only vision. And in vision she beheld a shape with 5 sides, spinning slowly upon waters of dark glass. Each side bore a symbol, root, fire, breath, and silence, and a 5th she could not name. She cried out, but no sound came. Instead, the shape drew near and entered her chest. When she awoke, her hair had turned silver, and her fingers trembled with memory not her own. She returned to the rooted unmarked, save for the light beyond her eyes. The elders asked what she had seen, and she replied, The 5th is not what we lack, it is what we left. And at once the grove stood still. That night the stones cracked. In the morning, the woman was gone again, vanished as before, yet this time even the earth did not hold her. Some said she walked into the sea, others claimed she became wind. The rooted never spoke her name again, yet they carved a fifth stone, not beside the four, but behind them. Upon it no words were etched, only a single mark, a spiral with 5 arms. And in that time, that symbol became taboo, erased from bark and branch, spoken only in riddles and remembered only in silence.